How you do?
Well, this is part two to finish that testimony that I had, but I've had pertaining to Rose next to me. And she's going to help me finish off this part two. We were discussing this, and she said, "Well, why don't we just go to the videos with the testimonies?" And I was very glad that she did that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I wanted to finish the part about
The horse being in colic?
yeah, the horse with colic. I'm telling you, that horse was dying, and the vet did finally come. They uh, they had to get through all the debris, and he said because if a horse has colic, they thrash. They will twist their intestines and kill themselves. And I loved this horse, and it was beautiful. And this horse was so bad. And I remember standing on the hillside looking and watching the horse thrash. And he said, "No, don't fight it. Let her go. She's going to kill herself. So just leave her go." And he left. And he said, "I'll be back later on to see how she's doing." Because he says, "There's nothing we can do now. We did everything we could possibly do to help her." And so I said, "Okay." Well, I was sitting there on a log in my where the riding ring was, and I had a hold of the horse, and I turned my back on the horse, and I just sat there and I looked down on the ground and I said, "Lord, I can't save this horse's life. Only you can. And if you want to take her, she's yours, because I can't stop it." And I heard something behind me, and the horse had gotten up. And when she got up, she took a bite of grass and she took a drink of water to swallow it. How many horses know to take a bite of grass and a drink of water? And she kept doing that, a bite of grass and a drink of water. She hadn't eaten or drinking anything because she was in so much pain. And here she was eating and drinking. By that night, her coat was so shiny. She was so beautiful. You couldn't even believe this was still the same horse.
Mm.
And the vet came. And he come up to me and he saw the horse and he really liked it and he started petting it and talking to me. And he said, "Where is this horse? What happened to her?" I says, "You're petting her." Oh, was he shocked that this was the same horse. Well, we were used to miracles like that. We were used to animals that couldn't walk that got completely healed. God's blessed us so much. We were used to just if a cow got kicked by a horse, a calf got kicked by a horse and had a big lump, she was instantly healed. I mean, in those healings with the animals, like my half wolf dog had a large tumor and I could see it and I laid hands on it and I crushed the tumor in the name of Jesus, and it was completely gone. And I remembered one day how an angel of the Lord came to me, and I had a tumor underneath my left rib, and how in my sleep he reached into my rib and crushed it, and it hurt so bad when he crushed it. When I woke up, the tumor was completely gone. And it wasn't that I prayed, it wasn't that I asked him to do it.
Mm-hmm.
He just was always there.
I laid hands on my cat, and all I said was he was having seizures. He had seizures all the time, and they were violent seizures. I
Yeah.
laid my hands on that cat, and I just said, "Jesus, Jesus,
Amen.
Jesus," over and over again until that cat came out of it. You know, that cat has never had a seizure since.
Yeah, you
And
were
that
telling
cat
me
is
about that.
probably, let me see, he's about 12 years old now.
Well, it's just that that was a way to plow the way to see people healed, to see where God did this not only with animals, but He did it with humans.
Right?
And so when somebody had a tumor and I could pray for them, I remembered the dog that He used. And like I said, if you believe God for the little things, then you can see Him do the bigger, more powerful things that are important to Him. And there was so many miracles in my life. I was in so many accidents. So many things happened. And I can remember I was teaching children in school and I was roller skating and I had never roller skated before and I was 57 years old. I had no business being on roller skates, but I went on there. to be with the children. I loved those children. And I know they loved me. And I fell. And when I fell, my wrist, I heard it crack, and the pain came, and I got angry. And I looked up towards heaven, and I said, where are your angels? I didn't say, oh, God, help me. Oh, please. I said, where? You promised me that your angels would have charge over me, and all that I had to do was love you, believe you, and obey you, which he knew I was doing. So they rushed me to the hospital, and the break was so bad they could not put a complete cast on it, so they put a half a cast. That night I was still angry. I'm suffering this pain. Why, Lord? You promised me healing. Why am I in this condition? And so I got so angry, I ripped the cast off. And then I looked at my hand, and it was completely healed. And next day I had to go to a bone doctor, and the bone doctor come running in. He didn't see anything. He had just looked at my x-ray. And he said, wow, did you do a job on that wrist? He says, you took this bone and you rammed it into this bone, and now it looks like this, which would need an operation because they would have to pull it apart, put it back together again. And when he went like this, he looked down and noticed I didn't have a cast. And that shook him so bad that he said, where's your cast? And all of these doctors knew I was Christian, what I believed. And I didn't have to tell him anything. And I just lifted up my hand like this, put it into his face and turned it and said, I didn't need it. And I got up and walked away. And he said, well, I guess you don't. And that testimony went through all the doctors, went through all the nurses. And the next time I got a pain in my shoulder, my internal medicine or rheumatoid arthritis doctor, she was going down my arm like this and touching my shoulder. And she went all the way down, and she got to my wrist, and she went, we know it's not that. She wasn't there for the accident. She wasn't there for the x-rays. So everybody was spreading that God healed this wrist. And he healed it by miracle. And it was just really awesome because it got to the point where doctors would see me coming, and if I said I had prayer for it, they wouldn't even test it. They would say, we're not going to touch what God did. I mean, these people saw miracles inside this body that I couldn't do. And I was so sick so many times, and it was so bad, I couldn't even pray. I could not even pray. And I was being terribly persecuted by the church. The church that I'd gone to had lied and told everybody that I was sick because I was sinning. And there has hidden sin in my life. Therefore, that's why I'm dying. And I had lupus. I had fibromyalgia. I had osteoporosis. I had 5 doctors taking care of me. I laid in bed for 10 months. I could not, every bone, even in my fingers and my toes, every bone in my body, including my skull, hurt. And with the fibromyalgia, which exaggerates pain, the pain in all of your muscles was like having tendonitis. So if I tried to crawl anywhere, the agonizing pain of crawling would be horrible. And no medicine helped me feel better. And as I would look up the steps and I knew I had to crawl, I would see Jesus up at those steps. And he'd look at me and smile and say, hey, Marion, you can do this. Come on. You're going to be okay. Come on. And I would go and crawl up those steps and crawl into bed and have a blanket, an electric blanket wrapped all around me. And I could not stop from my teeth chattering. I was so freezing cold. I had 2 pairs of gloves on. I had my head wrapped up. And I went through this and laid in that bed for 10 months. I was in such oblivion of pain. I didn't care if I lived. I didn't care if I died. I had nobody to pray for me. I had nobody to come and visit me except those that thought they were doing me a favor and thought I was dying. And when in the early stages of it, they would open up the door and I'd look at them and smile and say, if you're looking for death, it's not here. Because I'm not going to die. I'm going to live. So bye-bye. If you're looking for this, it's not going to happen. Because God promised me he's going to heal me. And I testified like this everywhere I went. I testified like this when they said I was dying of cancer. I went everywhere. I would go into Sears and testify to the people in there, and they'd be weeping. Everybody would be weeping because the Spirit of God would come down on them. And I'd say, God healed me. And when they told me how bad the cancer was, well, it was the same with the lupus. Mm-hmm. The doctors, all 5 of them agreed they could do nothing for me. They were having to just leave me go and let me die. And there I was laying there, and this is in my book. And I was laying there, and I did not know I had lost my memory, because many times as these episodes were coming on before the real bad illness, I would be like in a grocery store with a cart, and suddenly I didn't know where I was. I didn't know what a store was. And I'd look around and I didn't know what a cart was. And I would hear my name, Marion. And that's how I knew my name. Mm-hmm. And he would say, this is a cart. This is what you're doing. You've been shopping. And if you drove me for 20 years somewhere, mm-hmm. and I was in the car with you, and suddenly when I'd get this episode, I'd look at you, I would know who you were. I didn't know what a car was. I didn't know what was going on. And I would hear him say, Marion, you're going down this road, and you're going to so-and-so's house, and this woman is so-and-so. And she's going to take you, and this is why. And he was explaining it all to me as I was going through these episodes of no mind, no memory, no nothing, because the illness was so great. And so they sent me to a therapist because they said, lady, you gotta be having panic attacks, because they knew I lost everything. Mm-hmm. I lost my ability to walk. I lost this right arm. The whole arm was like a rag. It just dangled. You couldn't use it. It couldn't function for anything. And and the pain, oh my goodness, the agony would make you scream with pain. And so I was laying there one day with my teeth chattering, and it was so bad. And the doctors had just said there was nothing more they can do for me. They were giving me pain pills that they give to cancer patients who are dying. And they said, that's all we can do for you. And I got an allergy reaction to it. So that made things even worse. And I remember laying there, and suddenly I did not even care if I lived or died. I did not know my name. Mm-hmm. I knew nothing. And I heard and felt the Lord whisper in my ear. And he said, Marion. And I knew my name. Mm-hmm. And I said, yea, Lord. And he says, do you believe that I love you? Whispering that wonderful whisper. And I went, yea, Lord. I mean, I just, everything, me lifted up towards God, mm-hmm. without even controlling it. And I saw him lean over my bed, look in the devil's face and say, see, I told you she'd believe me, mm-hmm. that I love her. And for the first time, I got up out of bed, went into the next room, and sat down on the bed. And I was so badly persecuted. People lied on me so much that the lies got to the neighborhood, and the people in the neighborhood would knock on the door and say, you stupid SOB. And they would do that. They'd see me in a store and they would just curse mm-hmm. me. And I got cursed everywhere with everyone. My mother and father weren't living there anymore. I had family that hated me. I had his family that hated me. There was not a single person that was friends with me, that loved me or cared for me. And then I had this terrible persecution all the while I'm dying. And them telling me I'm dying, I'm giving up for dead. And so I sat there and I put out my hand towards God and I said, God, all of these people who've been swearing at me and doing this is God, put in my hand to help them if I can. Show me, Lord, how I may help them, that they don't go to hell, that they don't miss heaven. Help me, Lord. And I put out my hand, and suddenly I turned to the wall, And Jesus came through the wall. And he put his hand on me. I didn't see his face. The glory was so powerful I couldn't see his face. But I felt his robe and I felt his power. And he put his hand upon the top of my head. And he instantly healed me of lupus. It was completely gone. Everybody that saw me knew I could not communicate. I couldn't anything. I was so bad.
You got about 30 seconds.
Okay. And they saw me get up. And they saw it change. All of these testimonies aren't for you to think I'm wonderful. They're for you to know that Jesus will do that for you.
Mm-hmm.
To teach you how to believe. We're going to have to go. And we'll do part 3.